Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's program. Today's Tuesday, April 12th, 2022. We've got a really great program in store today. And before we get started, I want to just do a little bit of housekeeping. Let's see here. I'm going to share. See if I can pull up the slides. All right, there we are. Just to give you a little bit of what's on the horizon, we've got some really great programs that are coming up in the not too distant future. Today, we're going to be hearing from Ken Roenker in Edgewood. He's one of our members, and this is actually kicking off our series, our member case study series. So Ken reached out to us. He had a really great topic, and we said, let's get you on the calendar. So if you have a topic or methodology, some best practice that you'd like to share with the membership, just send us a note and we'll get you scheduled for one of these programs. We've got a lot of great speakers coming this year. Just to give you an idea of kind of what we've got lined up, Dr. Shelley Murphy is going to be coming back later in April to talk to us about using timelines. And we've got our own member, Cynthia Meharry. She's going to be doing a program for us on getting a good start. Getting a good start will be a free program, and that is for beginner genealogists. So if you're a beginner genealogist, or if you know someone who's just getting started in researching their family, definitely want to share that program with them. We've got Dr. Jonathan Coleman. He is going to be talking to us about the LGBTQ history of Kentucky. He runs an LGBTQ archive for the Commonwealth, and he also was just named Executive Director of the Bluegrass Trust for Historic Preservation. Then we've got Pamela Holland, who's spoken to our group before. She's going to be doing a program on DNA painter and chromosome mapping. We have our own member and board of director, Melissa Barker, who is the archive lady. She's going to be doing a program for us on the home archivist, how to preserve and store your archival materials. Judy Namr-Moon, who's a nationally recognized researcher for Native American research, will be coming in July. Then Judy Russell, the legal genealogist, will be here to talk about records of the Patent Office. Pretty amazing, the gems that you can find there on your ancestors, and a lot of them were very innovative and were engineering and designing things that made it into the Patent Office. We've got Mark Lowe, who has a bit of a cult following. He's going to be coming and talking to us about Kentucky's court system. Amy Cross will join us to talk about oral history interviewing and tips and techniques on how to really get the best oral history interviews from folks. We've got LaBrenda Garrett Nelson, who's the president for the Board of Certification of Genealogists. She's going to be coming to talk to us about planning research in October. And then Alec Ferretti, who's kind of a DNA guru. He's going to be coming to talk to us about DNA clustering. And Tim Tomes, who's the archivist for the Archdiocese of Louisville, he's going to be talking to us about the Maryland to Kentucky migration and researching Kentucky Catholics. What's not on here is the August seminar series. The August series will be completely focused on researching in Kentucky. So we have a lot of great topics in store for that series. Most of these programs, if you're a member, are free. If you are not a member, we want to invite you to join us. I'm Christopher Paget, by the way. I'm the president of the Kentucky Genealogical Society. It's a pleasure to be with you today. And I always share with folks that we are a community. We're completely grassroots, run by and for researchers. We are all volunteers. We have no paid employees, no staff, no building, completely 501c3 nonprofit. So everything that kind of gets staged and presented is done by volunteers. When you sign up for membership, when you renew your membership, when you visit the website, when you read an email, when you read the blog, all of that is generated by volunteers. There is no paid staff. So, and if you would like to participate, there's always an open invitation for you to join us and to become a participant in the community. Membership starts at $20 annually, and it's open to all researchers, regardless if you just started or if you're an expert. And we're always excited to talk about our partnership with Family Search. which we just entered into in the last month, and that is to get more Kentucky records digitized. We're going to be working in all 120 of Kentucky's counties with Family Search to get more Kentucky records digitized. So we're really excited about that partnership. It's going to help get those records that are out there that are sitting on a shelf that aren't digitized, hopefully get more of them digitized. And we need you to be an active participant in the community. So whether you are just joining as a member, or if you'd like to volunteer or write an article for the blog, whatever, we have opportunities for you to participate. And we love new members. If you are a member and you've had a great experience, please share the society with a cousin of yours or two. The more members we have, the more we're able to offer more programs and services and get more records digitized. So this is not just a small group. We have a national membership. We've got members now in 49 US states. We've got members in several foreign countries, and we want to grow stronger and be able to do more. So we do that by you sharing the society with your cousins who are also researching their family. I also want to just spotlight and thank Deborah Batts and Ann Watman, who both this week, just out of the blue, made generous contributions to the society. Ann has been a member since 1973. And so I just want to thank them for their kindness and generosity to supporting the mission of the Genealogical Society. And I also want to acknowledge our grant committee. These are volunteers who are located, as you can see, all over Kentucky and all over the country, who are responsible for reviewing grant applications that come in from libraries, archives, historical societies that are trying to get records digitized, but they don't have the funding to do so. And so the way this all works is when you become a member of the society, you are invited to make a donation. And when you do that, all those $5 and $10 and $20 and $200 and whatever the amount is donations, they all add up, and we take that money, and the members of this committee review grant applications that come in, and then we get rare Kentucky records digitized and accessible to our members for Kentucky's 120 counties. It's very exciting. So I just want to thank these folks. They're volunteers. They read the grant applications, they score them, and they recommend who gets digitization grants. And so you're invited to participate. You can go to kygs.org/volunteer and sign up and let us know how you'd like to volunteer, or you can drop me an email. Always accessible, love talking to our members. My email is president@kygs.org. So today we've got a really great program. Ken, I'm so excited. He reached out to me and was like, I'd love to talk to you about how to create photo books with your genealogical research. And I was like, great, let's get it together. And so he pulled this together for us. Ken is a member researcher. He was a professor of engineering at the University of Cincinnati. He's retired, but he is a hobbyist. He's not a professional genealogical educator. So he's just like you. He just has this methodology that he's helped develop. And so today he's going to talk to us about it. Before we get to him, if you miss Wild, Wonderful West Virginia, that is now on the website, and it is available and free to all of our members to access. With that, Ken, right now I'm gonna change you, make you the presenter. And let's see here. All right. And Ken, while you're getting the prompt there, is there anything you want to share with us about your research, or maybe the surnames you're researching, or kind of where your people are that you've been focusing on?
Let me see if I can get the slides up here. I thought we had them up here a minute ago.
They always have a way of disappearing when you need them.
Let's see, is it? I can see them. Can you see them?
I can see them beautifully.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Chris, for having me. And good afternoon, everyone. as Chris said, I am a retired teacher, and I got started in genealogy after I retired, and that was in 2008. And so since that time, what I've been bitten by the genealogy bug, and also bitten by the urge to create something that would last and something I could pass on to my family and friends and descendants. So here's a little bit of a look ahead of what we're going to talk about, a little bit about how I got started, a little bit about why using a photo book, why not do a DIY, publish your own book, how to get started, get organized, how to lay out and construct pages to put into the photo book, how to assemble the photo book, and then how to get it printed. So on the screen here, you see the cover pages for two of the books that I've done. I've done about 20 books over the last 5 years or so, about half on my side and about half on my wife's side. And I have to say, she has a much more interesting history than I do. So I got started when my father left me a deed to the burial plot for my great-grandfather, Bernard Roenker. And you can see the marker. It's in St. Mary's Cemetery in northern part of Cincinnati. And it's in German, so that was a hint. They were from Germany, but my father never talked about them. I don't think he knew much of anything about them. So that got me interested in starting to see what I could find and accumulating records. And I started creating folders, one for each ancestor, and then creating sets of files and books of files or boxes of files. And then starting to fill out a family tree and see how far I could trace back the family line and its branches. And then I began feeling the urge to share findings with brothers and sisters. I'm the oldest of 9, and with siblings and children and grandchildren. So I started out making PowerPoint presentations. As a professor, I did that every day, so I was familiar with using PowerPoint or Mac's version of that called Keynote. And it was a way to assemble things. I had boxes and boxes of files in the house, and uh, soon realized it's very hard to share things when you've got them all in boxes. And I needed a way to get them out and put it in a form that I could share with family and friends. And then PowerPoints were convenient, but I needed to get together with family or friends and set up a time and bring a laptop and plug into a TV. And it was great doing it. But with 8 brothers and sisters, there's too many things to share and too many limitations on getting together. So I started looking at how to put things together in a printed form that I could just give them a copy and they could look at it when they had time and interest. Now, the first thought that comes to your mind is, why put it together in a photo book? There is a DIY publishing software and companies out there. You can write your own story. You can put in what you want. You can add pictures, family trees, stories, and more. all you need is Microsoft Word or Pages, word processing, and then you can save it and print it at Kinko's and bind it as you would like with just ring binders or whatever. And now there are more professional tools out there, Lulu and others, and I don't know any more than the titles on those. I haven't tried to use those. You can produce a more professional book using those. Um, as an individual, I have trouble writing stories and writing long narratives. I'm used to preparing slides and uh, talking about what's on the slide, but I'm not gifted with writing long stories, and so I wasn't inclined to do a book. So I stumbled into these photobook services. I'd seen them advertised by Shutterfly and others when you upload pictures and send copies. And I did a vacation, a Rhine River cruise, and the people I was with said, "Can you take our pictures and put them in a photo book?" So I did, and I got familiar with Costco. And for most of the rest of the talk here, I'll be talking about using Costco's service. I find it very easy to use, but I found when shopping around, at least at the outset, that it was the more reasonable cost to produce a photo book. I found some of the others more expensive. So why put together a photo book? Well, there can be various ways or motivations for doing it. At the right, you see a couple of the ones I've done. For genealogists, I've done several tracing family lines back and finding some very interesting history, particularly on my wife's side. But more recently, I got the urge to put together a book about my mother's life and history, in part because I had photo albums, and occasionally I'd get together with a brother or sister and we'd look at them and they'd say, "Can you make me a copy of that? Can you make me a copy of that picture?" So I found myself making lots of copies of lots of pictures. So I said, I'm just going to put a photo book together and put it all in there and share it that way. So it's worked for that application as well. So it's a convenient way to put together in one location pictures, certificates, birth, death, marriage, military records, census records, immigration records. And I use Legacy to make family trees, so I'll put those files in it as well. What I also found was I became interested in adding some social history. Where did they live? What were the conditions there? How did they live? What difficulties did they make? And I found some interesting history there on multiple occasions. And I've, in doing these books, occasionally will put in a couple pages just with some information I found from various sources on Civil War. And for example, one ancestor or several ancestors served in the Civil War, and I would find a note they were this unit of the Kentucky Infantry. So I'd go research that and find, well, they were at these battles. So I could add some information on that to the book as well. What I've also found is I'll start a book, and as I start assembling the PowerPoint presentation, I find, well, I need to to go find another piece of information, or I need to go look for this or for that. And so it actually helps in guiding research and organizing what you can find on various ancestors. And of course, one of the main motivations is allows you to share the results with family and friends. The books are not that expensive, and so I ordinarily make a copy for each of my 3 daughters when I make a new book and pass it on to them. As I said, I use Costco simply because I got started there and I found it's a convenient source for producing these books. And they're very quick. They'll get it back to you in a week or more. They'll mail you the copies if you want. And interestingly enough, they keep your photo book files once you've assembled it for at least a year. So you can go back later and order more copies if you want to. So here's the Costco photo book start page. They give you some options, whether you want the premium lay flat or the hardcover or a soft cover. So where to start and how to get started? Well, you need a theme or a plan. What are you trying to talk about? Are you trying to trace a family line back in time? You interested in describing an individual's life? If you see on the right there, there's a George Roenker's naval service. A few years ago, I got a tip that I could get a copy of my dad's military service records from the National Archives. So I ordered that and I got 50 pages. So I started looking through that and organizing it and constructed a book on his naval service, from his physical going in through the battles he was in the Navy in the South Pacific in World War II till his discharge. And I was even lucky enough to find a letter from my mother to him while he was in the war. So an interesting tidbit to add. Probably the best place to start with preparing the PowerPoint presentation. That's convenient to add slides, move them around, reorganize them, add new materials, edit them, etc. At the bottom right is also another format I used. My dad was one of 9 as well. So I had information on some of them. So I put together a book on his siblings, in part to pass down to my daughters. If you're interested in doing a genealogy-based photo book, I found it's best to start with creating a file for each person and then working your way back through a family tree. So you need to decide on a path and which branch of the tree you're going to do. And I have legacy software, so I can create family trees and customize those. I also research and gather supplemental materials, maps, bits of history, pictures, and various things. Here's an example of a variety of things that I've used over the years. So why use PowerPoint or Keynote? Why not just go to the website for the photo book? You can paste in multiple images, 1, 2, 3, 4 images per page. You can do a photo book that way. But what I found is the Costco website is not very user-friendly. So it lets you put in pictures and that sort of thing, but it's not convenient for adding notes or arrows or underlines or for editing the pictures. So PowerPoint or Keynote is a much more powerful tool. You can load in PDF documents of census records or family trees or other items, put them in the PowerPoint on a page, move them around, resize them, crop them, etc. You can also add text, title at the top of the page. I like to add just for clarity. And it's a very flexible tool. Now, if you're not familiar with PowerPoint or Keynote, there are tutorials out there on YouTube. They're easy to find. They can give you some refresher if you're have used these but not too comfortable with them. You can get some tips on using them. Here's ones for Mac's Keynote. So here's some examples at the bottom of various pages from different books that I've used. The middle one, you can see a census page, and with PowerPoint or Keynote, you can crop the page and blow it up, make it a little easier to read. You can put multiple things on the page. In the lower right is an immigration record for my great-grandfather. So I've got a couple item lines with his name and his wife and son, and the record for the ship and where it came from and when. So there's various ways you can organize your information. It's really up to your creativity and patience in putting things in and moving them around and getting them to your liking. So here's a few more pages, different examples. One case I found my wife's ancestry. She had Colby Quisenberry, who was a slave owner. So here was a list of slaves in the record, the 1850 slave record. I use Ancestry.com frequently to find records and find family trees that others have assembled, and I'll use those as an aid in working my way back through the family tree. One of the things I found most useful about Keynote and PowerPoint is you can underline things, you can add arrows pointing something you want the reader to see. Items such as in the death record or in census records. I've done some work on researching Irish ancestry, and you can use Griffin valuations that show land rented, and they incorporate maps and almost zero in to the exact locations. The web is convenient for finding pictures of old churches and adding those with records of births or deaths. So once you've got the Keynote or PowerPoint presentation together, it How long it is depends on how much you want to include. I've done ones at least 100 pages. Um, Costco limits you to 99 pages when you construct the book. So in some cases, I've had to put 2 pages of the PowerPoint on 1 page in the photo book, but it lets you do that. And as long as the typing isn't too small, you can read it all right. Now, what you need to do to create the actual photo book once you've done the lion's share of the work in creating the PowerPoint is you need to take each page of the presentation and convert it to a JPG file, a picture file. Costco doesn't want PDF or other formats. They want a picture file version. So for Keynote and PowerPoint, you can save the entire presentation as a PDF file and then open that file and then save or export each page as a separate JPG file. And then to avoid confusion later when you're constructing the book, I always add a page number to each page of the presentation and then each label for each page of the presentation. So you've got a folder with JPG files for each of the pages of the presentation. Once you've got those, then you're ready to go to the Costco website and upload those and start constructing the book. So the Costco website has a photo center. You can go in, select the format of the book you want. They have 3 versions, a soft cover, a hard cover, 11.5 by or 11.25 by 8.75, or a lay fat version. I usually do the hardcover in the middle. You need to sign in and set up an account. So next time you come back and continue working on it or do another one, it knows who you are. You'll need to name the project. This is the photo book with the date. There is just the default when you open it. And then subsequently you go and pick out the theme, which is just the layout of the pages. Do you want 1 picture per page or 2 or 3 or 4? That's the default for the pages. As you go through the book, you can jump back and forth between different formats. If you want to put in a page with 2 pictures or 3 or 4, you can do that for an individual page and then switch back to the default format. So you next have to set up a photo album to hold the files that you're going to be uploading. These are the presentation pages in the JPG format. So it will have a generic album there with the year. That's just the one that starts. So you see that, and then you hit continue, and then it'll open an album. And initially it'll be blank. You haven't loaded any pictures as yet. So that's the middle of the screen. And then if you hit continue, you'll get this warning at the bottom. It says some of your pages are blank. And of course they're blank. I haven't had any pictures yet. So you just hit continue anyway, and it gets you to the next stage. So here's the screen for the photo book to get started. It opens with the dark empty page on the right. That's the cover. If you look at the bottom, you can see the cover is selected. The second one, the black one, is the back cover. And then the third one, labeled 1, is actually the first page. So you can click on that and it'll bring up the first page ready for your picture to be loaded. So next you need to load the pages of your presentation. So you hit the photo icon at the top of the black bar on the left, and it'll pop up a window and an upload button. So you hit the upload button and it says, okay, I'm ready to take your pictures. Tell me where to look for them. So you can actually get them from Facebook and Instagram and others, but a normal situation is you've got your file folder on the desktop and you hit the box with the arrow there and it pulls up, for example, here the desktop is shown here, and about halfway down I've got a folder labeled JPG files for the Roenker photo book. So I'll click on that, it'll open that, and you can see I've got a whole series of pages here of the pages for the photo book, and I've got them numbered just to help avoid confusion later when you're trying to pick and load these into the photo book. So in this case, I've selected 5 that I'm ready to upload. I don't normally upload all of them at one time. It just helps avoid confusion, because one of the pitfalls of the Costco website is if you upload, say, 50 files, it doesn't necessarily keep them in order. And so you find yourself searching through the files on the left side to find the right one to go in the right sequence in the book. So I usually do 5 or 10 at a time. Once you highlight them, you'll see the picture at the bottom and tells you their size, and then you just hit the upload, and 30 seconds they're uploaded. So here I've loaded 5 pictures, and so on the left-hand side you see the album with the 5 pictures, and on the right what you see is the first page of the blank photo book. So I'm ready now to start selecting pictures from the left and pasting them into the book page on the right. So here I've done the first page, and you can see from the image, the page is oversized. So if you hit the transform button under the picture there, it highlights it, and then you can shrink it, you can move it around, you can actually edit it somewhat, move the sides of the bottom up, and then you can center it on the page. And once you've done that, you can just click on the next page below and move on to the next page. So if you've got these slides numbered in the presentation, that helps in getting these put in order in the photo book. So here's a couple pages. The one on the left is actually one presentation page where I've got a couple things on there. And then on the right, I've selected the option of 2 pictures on the page. And so here's 2 pages from the presentation posted on one page. So once you start putting multiple pages on one page, then the page numbers that you got at the bottom don't correspond to the page numbers at the in the presentation. So it's a little easy to get out of sequence and lose track of where you are. Now there is at the lower right a reorganize button where you can move pages around once you've loaded them in. But I haven't found that works very well. It tends to move pairs of pages at a time. So you might move 6 and 7 to ahead of 4 and 5, but if I only want to move 6 ahead of 5, then that's not as easy to do. There's also there next to the left of the reorganize button, you'll see a plus sign there. You can add more pages to the end of the book. The book by default is 30 pages, and you can add pairs of pages up to 100 pages. So I've done that on occasion. It doesn't add too much more to the cost. It's surprisingly inexpensive. So I've done a 100-page book, and it might run $60 or $70. But a 30-page one is right around $20. So it's not too expensive. You do need to create a cover for the photo book. I usually do a separate PowerPoint presentation file and customize the cover. You can also do a back cover if you want. I don't usually do that, but here I've uploaded a page for a cover, and I can just drag that over onto the cover. And then there's also the binding edge. You can click on that, and then you can add the title of the book along there and change the format or the color of the text or bold it, whatever. So that's a nice feature. Once you've loaded all the pages and you've got everything the way you want, you've got the cover and the binding title on there, you can save the book. You can work on the book and save it and come back and work on it again. You don't have to do it all at the same time. I was thinking as I was preparing for this what to say about how long it takes to put together the photo book. Most of the work is all in putting the presentation together. Once you've got that in the files made in the JPG format, it still takes an hour or two to load them on, resize, and position the pages and get everything in final form. So it takes a little more time than you might think. So here's the checkout page, and I added a couple extra pages on here just to see what the cost was. So it went up less than $1 for adding 2 extra pages. So this one, a single copy, would be about $21 plus tax and a couple dollars shipping. So I hope this has given you some useful insight on how to get started creating photo books. I find it very rewarding to be able to put these together and share these with family and friends. I've shown them to friends, long-term friends, and they said, well, I'd love if you could help me do one of these. And so I've ended up doing half a dozen of these for friends, just because I enjoy doing it and because I knew they would value it. So that wraps up the presentation. What I have to say, I'll be glad to answer some questions if I can help with any questions you might have. Chris?
Great. Thank you so much, Ken. You know, it's interesting as you're presenting this, we live in such a digital world these days. Actually being able to physically hold your research and look at the images, page through it, there's, I think, at least for me, I think, and for a lot of folks, I think there would be a lot of meaning in having something like this because you can point at it and share it, and if you're sitting next to someone, kind of go back and forth talking about it. So thank you so much, though, for pulling this together, Ken. And just so everybody knows, like, Ken just volunteered to do this, and we had been talking about doing member case studies. And so I thought this is a great way to kick it off, because this is something that all of us can do. It's pretty, Ken's walked us through how he does it. And wow, I mean, isn't Costco becoming like more and more just a part of everything we do these days? So I was in Costco last night, not knowing that you were going to be talking about it today, Ken, but they got everything in there, let me tell you.
Yes, they do.
All right, so folks, if you have questions for Ken, go ahead and just type them into the GoToWebinar. There's questions. And also, while you're typing in your questions for Ken, you want to make sure you downloaded Ken's handout. He put together a really great one-page handout, and you can access that in the handout section on GoToWebinar. All right, so Ken, some of the questions that have come in, let's see here. Lots of accolades, by the way.
Thanks.
Let's see here. Okay, this is more of a sideline question, but I'll go ahead and ask it because I'm sure this would be helpful. Elizabeth asked, did you have to pay for your dad's military records? And also, do you have to be a Costco member to use their photo services?
I think the second one, I think you do have to be a Costco member to use their services. I've always been a member, so I don't really know. You might check with them, but yeah, I'm not sure about that. As far as my dad's Navy records, yeah, I think there was a small fee, maybe $25 to get the files. You need to be a son or daughter, a relative, to get the files. And I've told friends about this, and they haven't been as lucky. There were a lot of files lost in that St. Louis fire, and so some of them who've searched and requested them just got one or two pages back. It was all lost. I was just fortunate to get all that I did.
Great. Marion asked, when you create a page with a family chart, do you make it in Word or Keynote and then export it as a JPEG to load it onto the Costco platform?
For the family trees, I use Legacy and make it there and create a PDF file and then paste it in. For family, I have just a style where I use bits and pieces and sort of construct a custom page with the person and the spouse and children. And so I'll get that from pieces of files in Ancestry.
All right. And then Marion also asked, do you recommend mostly using a landscape orientation for your books?
I like that. It's the landscape is normally what the layout is for PowerPoint, and it's a convenient orientation I found. So I just use it by convenience.
Okay, another question, this one from Marion, a different Marion. We have several Marions on the webinar today. This Marion would ask, how sharp and clear are the words and images as JPEG when they print on the page?
They're usually very good. The printing is on glossy paper, and they do a good job. It really depends for the pictures on how good your picture is, and but I've been very happy with how the pictures and maps and other things turned out.
Okay, Robin asked, does Costco put page numbers on the finished book, or is that something you have to do?
Um, I don't think they put page numbers on it. I always put them on the PowerPoint um, to make sure I've got them, but I don't think they put page numbers on the book itself.
Okay, Lisa asked, do you include information about living people in the books?
No, I don't do that. Just out of abundance of caution. Um, I usually am starting with, a grandparent or parent. I don't publish any of these on the web. I, only make copies for my daughters or brothers and sisters. So, and one thing I did become very sensitive to and made an effort. If I have a death notice or a death record from somebody who's died, and I find it in the Social Security file, you have to be careful. They give you with the person's death record his Social Security number. So I always, if I put that in the book, I always black out the number. Um, just for safety reasons.
All right. Just more accolades. Marion shared excellent handout and presentation. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Let's see here. These are the same question. Marion, another Marion, also shared, thank you, Ken. Photos have a hard time defending themselves, but when they're in a book, they'll be protected with meaningful info. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, Laureen asked, about how long did it take you to prepare your PDF files first before uploading to Costco?
Let's see, once I've got the presentation finished, all the pages are in the final form, it only takes a few seconds to create a PDF file. And then it takes a few minutes you literally are printing each page as a JPEG file. So that takes some patience. If you've got 50 pages, it's a couple keystrokes for each, and then you're, trying to reorganize and catch them all in a folder on the desktop. So, yeah, that can take, 10, 15 minutes there.
Okay, Elaine asked, Ken, based on your experience, what have you found better, Keynote or PowerPoint?
Well, I have a Mac, so I use Keynote, and I've been using a Mac for 10 or more years, so I'm familiar with that, and I like that software.
Okay, Cheryl asked, do you create an index or a source page or anything like that?
No, I don't.
Right.
I do have sort of an introduction. If you look at this Quisenberry one in the middle, I'll usually put a sentence or two at the top, sort of introducing the reader to what this book is doing, and then I'll usually put some kind of summary at the end to sort of wind it up.
All right, Leslie asked, how long does it take for Costco to produce the finished product once you've uploaded the pages?
It's pretty quick, maybe a week, plus or minus a few days. I usually get them mailed to me, so that may add an extra day or two, but there's not a long backlog of weeks. It's usually pretty quick.
All right. And just some final feedback. Leslie shared, this was an excellent presentation. There's probably about 20 accolades like this, Ken, but Leslie went on to say it was very informative. Thanks for hosting the webinar and allowing non-members to attend for free. It's an excellent way to share family research and ensure that it is passed down.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, Ken. And again, Ken kind of reached out to us, and we were thinking about doing a member case study series. And so I thought this would be a great way to sort of kick it off. And in doing so, I'm hoping that Ken may have inspired others that are either were live participants or folks who may see this on the recording. If you have a case study, best practice that you would like to share with the society, feel free to just shoot us an email, and we will we'll get you scheduled and get you on the schedule. It's pretty straightforward. What I would just say too, before we close, I just have a couple little housekeeping. Again, we want to thank Ken for doing the program for us today. And I want to, if you didn't download his handout, make sure you do so. This program was recorded. It will be available on our website along with a handout for members to access. It was also recorded so that it would be available for the public. So if you, know someone who you think might be interested in this, feel free to share it with them. We want to thank Ken in Edgewood, Kentucky. I was telling Ken, he shared his ancestor's name as Bernard, who's buried in St. Mary's. My ancestor, Bernard Ringswald, is buried in St. Mary's Cemetery in Fort Thomas. So it was sort of ironic. We want to thank him for reaching out. We want to share sort of what's on the horizon. I went through this at the beginning of the program, but again, we've got a lot of great webinars in store. And hopefully you'll make some time to participate in these. These are all free to members. I'll point out a couple that will be free to non-members. Getting a Good Start with Cynthia Meharry. Cynthia's a professional genealogist. She's a former board member of the Kentucky Genealogical Society, and she is going to be doing a webinar for brand new researchers. So if you are a new researcher, or if you know someone who's just getting started, I want to encourage them to register for that webinar on May 12th. It is free, it's open to the public, and that is presented by the Society as a public service. There will be other free webinars throughout the year. We'll post that clearly on the website so that you'll know which ones are for members, which ones are free. And again, if you have a topic that's a best practice, a methodology, some skill that you've learned about researching in Kentucky, or something that you do that you think, I think other researchers, other members of the society could benefit from this, just drop us an email and we will have a chat with you and get you scheduled to do one of these webinars, just like Ken did for us today. It's that easy. It's not anything complicated at all. So if you're not yet a member, we want to invite you to join. Membership is $20 a year, such a low price for such great benefits. You get access not only to these live webinars, but you also get access to over 60 on-demand video programs that you can watch at any hour of the day that are specifically about researching your Kentucky ancestors. You also get access to our entire archive of Bluegrass Roots and the Kentucky Genealogist. So always want to invite folks to join and participate. Thank you so much. Hope everyone has a good rest of your day. Thanks to Ken for spending time and putting all this together for us today. We really appreciate it, and hope everybody takes care. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thanks, Ken. Really appreciate it. You did a great job.
You're welcome. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.